Guys, the Vanquish Phoenix has arrived. It's time to get this thing built. Now, if you're into this truck, you've already seen the other videos. You've already seen the build videos, the transmission, the dig, all that stuff. You've already seen how all that works. So I'm going to show you what catches my eye while I'm building it, because I want to get this thing done so I can get outside with it. Take a look. I'm not one for box art too much, but at least this one shows you the overdrive and dig transmission, the way that works out, which is almost looks like the overdrive is just basically a second gear for the front end. So nice VFD pictures right through there. Got that seal, and we're going to cut that seal because I'm done looking at the box. Wow, there we go. All right, looks like the same, well, mediocre tires that the other 410s have. Well, that's interesting. It looks smaller in the pictures. Oh, there's the bed frame or the bed fenders, chassis components, all this wonderful stuff. I want to get into these axles. There's a few nice things I saw on those that I want to check out. Look at that, little beef tubes already. All right, that's a good thing. You know, I've had really good luck out of the plastic drive shafts as of late, especially with the portal stuff. Links, beefy links. And now we're down to what I need. Oh, look at the transmission parts. Frame, which looks like beefy like the other 410s. And sweet, another one of those. All right, guys, it's time for me to get this thing going. The front axle housing is nice. I can already tell it's got a nice little gusset right there. It looks nice and beefy. Plus, it's got these brass beef tubes. Very nice piece. I'm not even halfway done with the front axle, and I'm liking this build already. Plastics are just top notch. When it comes to the bearings for the carriers, I always add a little bit of grease to them since they are open face. So, yeah, very nice. A very nice design. Now look at this right here. The C-hub does not come all the way down to catch on things. I like that. I originally saw this, I think it was GCM had it on eBay for the Traxxas TRX4, and I actually used those when I built Optimus 2. So yeah, it's not like the current Capras. That's a Capra front end. See how that C-hub comes all the way down to the bottom, and these don't. That makes a difference on portal clearance. Rear axle done. Beautiful setup. Now it's on to the chassis and some of that. And the chassis is together, and of course I'm using a raw 500 for this. Now I'm not sure if I lost the bolts or what, but by the time I made it over to here, I was short the 2 screws that go into there and then the 3 that go to the back. So I had to dig through my bin to find those. I don't think I put anything together wrong. But anyway, we are moving on now to the transmission. Oh yeah. From the book, the transmission looks like pretty much a standard VFD transmission until you get out to here. And this is where you have all your shift collars and all that wonderful stuff. So let's open up the D-bag. So here we are, and time to get started on that right there. This part right here is done, and there it is. Now, stock pinion, all that. I am starting out with a Crawlmaster Sport 13 turn 540 size. Now, for a low budget motor, this is one awesome little motor. I will be testing out different motors in this, and eventually I'll settle on one because you guys know how I like to test stuff out, right? So anyway, that's where we're starting at on that. Now we are moving on to the rest of it. Pretty simple setup, getting all the way to here. Lots of little tiny screws. You're going to use the wide gear and the short pin in there. That little guy right there. And just to let you know, this is one big solid gear. Like, seriously. With that set up right there, this goes on it just like that. And when you have this together, the top will be open until you put the cap on, so you can add a little bit of grease to it afterwards. Number 5 right there. There you go. I am done with this page, and here is the assembly. I've already got the E-clip on, which is on the next page, but you can see I greased the hexes up just a little bit so they slide. The 32 tooth gear is this one right here. The 30 is right here along with the idler. That plastic spacer has got the hex all the way through it. So pretty much we are ready to go on. At this part right here, see that lockout? That lockout goes right down into there. It can only go one way. Now what this does is this collar right here, the one on the rear output, that actually goes into this, and that's what locks the rear output up, giving you the dig feature. At this point right here, I'm going to add a little, at this point right here, this is ready to go into that case right there. I'm going to add a little bit of grease to this. The grease that they supply is really sticky, so don't go packing a lot of it in there, just a little bit. I noticed some sticky resistance, which should sling off, right? So anyway, this is just going to go into there kind of like that. There we go. It's greased and bolted up. Now we get to move along to the shifting and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, we are ready to go on to the next step right here. Look at all that. This part right here is in. I put the gasket into the actual cap right here, the top piece, with the screws, and then bolted it all on. So onto the other side. This right here is in, and you can actually see everything work, which is really awesome to look down in there and see everything move around. That's pretty cool. Make sure you use the brass pin there, the brass bushing, not the plastic one that comes in it. So anyway, yeah, you can actually see everything. And both of these arms pivot off the same bushing. So they both pivot off the exact same thing. On to the next step. And here we have the other gasket that's got to go on. And then the drive shafts go on, and we slide it right in. As far as assembling the drive shafts, I don't see that so far in the manual, but they're pretty straightforward, kind of the same thing. I'll show you guys. This is the easiest way that I've found to put this onto that. Just go and put the screws in there and then push that right through it and bolt it up. Apparently I wasn't paying close enough attention. The one with the tab right down there at the bottom goes on the two-wheel drive part, like the dig and all that. And the one that's flat goes on the one for the front-wheel drive, or the overdrive and all that. At this point, it's time to put the cover on, which according to the instructions, I was supposed to do it earlier, but for me, I'm putting it on now, and it's ready to drop down into the chassis. We're going to go ahead and get a weight on this thing, but I want to point something out to you guys. Okay, see these set screws that go in here, here, over here, and here. Those are in case you don't have the radio with all the channels. So you can actually tap or tighten those up, and there's a little indentation on each of these two arms where you can lock it into one position or the other. So you don't really need full channels, what, 4 channels to make this thing work and all that? Yeah, so you can actually make this and go manually with it. And they're both accessible from the top. At least they are at this point. I haven't got to the rest of the build, but anyway, you can lock it in one way or the other. So yeah, that's a nice little feature. Nice little touch. So the cover goes on, and just for the heck of it, we're going to weigh this in along with both of the axles. The transmission with the Crawlmaster Sport motor, 491 grams, 17.3 ounces. It's over a pound. 1 pound, 1.3 ounces. The front axle without the steering tie rod and all that is 229 grams or 8.1 ounces. The rear axle is 198 grams, 7 ounces. There we go. In the chassis. All right, so you can fit a Fusion. I'm not sure if I told you, but you got to take the red end bell off and maybe do a little bit of filing to that area, but they actually will fit, and the Fusion is a really nice setup. Up next are the shocks, and I've been seeing some people have issues with these. Let's see how mine go together. I see what they're talking about. They're talking about how tight it is to get these spring retainer adjuster collars onto the threads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up and put just a tiny drop or two on the threads to kind of lubricate that as I take it up the threads. Yep, a little bit of oil goes a long way. Yeah, Vanquish really screwed the pooch on this one. I'm actually putting them on this and having to hammer the darn things down straight. Wow, the oil worked on one of them. Jeez, this should not be like this. These shocks leave a lot to be desired, guys. The pistons, if I can get this in there. If you can see that. The piston is too tight in the darn bore. I don't see any other way to do this, so what I've been doing is running this like this. The piston is actually rolling on the shaft, but it's taking a little bit off of it. So I'm just doing this right here until I get the clearance for a smooth shock. Yeah, these shocks are currently leaving a lot to be desired. This is the way I'm setting up the shocks. Now these caps actually have a bleeder screw, which is pretty nice. Gotta not look at the screen here. Add a little bit of oil to it. Then I kind of move it just a little bit to get the air pocket out from underneath it. Let all that come through the top. Get that out of there. And then what I do is I make it to where the oil is just above the piston at full compression with the spring collar on. So, and if it's a little bit too high, well, I ease a little bit of it out, no problem. Just like that. And then I'll put the cap on. Like I said, these have a bleeder screw on them. I've already got the little O-ring on there. Let's see here. If I can do this through the screen. Nope. There we go. Had to look around the screen. You give that a little bit of tight. Now, if you want to add a lot of oil, what you can do is you can push the excess out through the little vent hole, the little weep hole, or whatever you want to call it. But I kind of want to have some air in there. And not so much that you get cavitation on the piston. I mean, this is an emulsion shock. Flip the shock over, you will get air into the piston. The shock's going to be straight up and down, so I shouldn't have that issue. Now with everything compressed like this, I'm going to get this put into place here. Oh, let's see if I can get this. There we go. And then of course you don't want to over tighten it a lot. Now on the shocks that don't have the little vent bleeder screw thing, a lot of times when you put the cap on with it all the way up like this, it will kind of push down a little bit. So I like my shocks to right about there or even closer. So this right here seems to work out pretty good. Got no air bubbles in there. When you flip it over, that's the emulsion part. You see it kind of pull back in. But anyway, that's how I do my shocks, especially with these small bore shocks. The ones with the bladder, a little bit different. So the shocks are done. They were way more of a hassle than they should have been. At least Vanquish put the O-rings in the bottoms of the bodies, right? But yeah, these are, well, they could have been a little bit better. Had to pull the transmission back out. Once I got the drive shafts on, I was able to spin it and I could actually hear the pinion set screw, because it was all the way back as far as it could go. These motors, they have that bearing kind of sticking out on them. So I kind of had to do some shimming. The shims that were in the kit, I typically use those on the drive shafts to keep the pinion pulled out. What I had to do is put them underneath the back side of the clutch. That way I could space the spur gear forward just enough to get it off of the set screw. I also found a shorter set screw as well. So now we're good to go. Put this right back in. If you're using a normal brushless motor, you won't have that bearing piece sticking out, so you won't have that issue. But anyway, got that taken care of. Figured you guys, if you're going to try to use this motor, you may want to know about that. I got to tell you, this transmission just really doesn't like this motor. See that little divot right there? That's from the motor shaft. It's actually rubbing right there. When you have this all the way tightened up, there's a little bit of a restriction in it, a little bit of friction, and you can hear it. That's interesting. Using a drill bit by hand, I kind of made a little bit of an indentation, just kind of drilled out the spot that where the pinion shaft was actually on it. Did not go through the case, so did not mess that up, and hopefully it'll clear. With the motor situation taken care of, it's time to put on the links. Luckily, they all look like straight links, so that's a good thing. And by straight links, I'm referring to these all being simple, straight, easy. To put these together, I have this guy right here. Check this tool out right here. It fits right into it, turns them right on. If you don't have one of these, hopefully I'll remember to add a link to the description. I believe you get these from Team Garage Hack. Totally worth it. In case you guys have never seen one of these work, this slides right into here. Now granted, you got to have the right end. Usually the Traxxas 4mm ends, they fit fine. If you get some with different ball ends and all that, well, it may not work. But then you can probably do it without the ball end in there. All right, so there we go. Got that started. Now I'm going to slide one of these into this hole right here. Now watch this magic. There you go. I used to dread doing these on builds, but not anymore. And with those done, it's time to get those into the chassis. So we are close to actually getting this thing on the axles. I'm trying to put the front fenders on, and obviously they're not lining up. The body post is supposed to be at the back. I'm thinking, okay, I completely messed up because that right there completely shows them to the back. All right, well, when you go all the way back to here, doesn't that show them in the front? This is the front of the chassis. Note the direction. Look at mine, to the front. So, yeah, I noted that direction, I guess, perfectly wrong, huh? No, I was right. All right, I'll flip these two around. We're back on track. I got to tell you guys, these molded wheel wells are a lot better than the Lexan ones on the Pro. I really like these much better. Well, this is where I'm at now. Yeah, I got to put those screws in, but I got a little bit of a mess. I got the Raw 500 up front. I've got a Traxxas 2075 right here. I got a 20 kg back here. Those will be changed out for something. I'm just not stocked on servos like I thought I was. But I've got endpoints set. We got a massive wire bundle to try to lock up somehow because, well, you know, I'm going to be changing this out. But anyway, yeah, it's getting close. Okay, guys, I've got this thing pretty much done. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the wiring because you guys know what's coming out. I've already mentioned that. And I am not, these are actually the tires off the vs410. I'm not going to be running the stock tires. So what I've done is I've already put on these right here. We have the Jconcepts Landmines with the Reefs Fury wheels. So they look really good on there. Now, the body's already painted. Let's check that out. Here we go. Simple and easy blue. Oh man. This looks awesome. I wasn't too sure about the blue. I thought about doing something red and all that, but you know, kind of Phoenixy, but I think this is going to work out pretty good. Wow. Check out the sticker. That nice shiny, I'm not sure what you would call it, but anyway, it is together. So let's get this thing on the shelf and finish chatting about this. Well, it is finally built. Kits take a long time to put together. The Vanquish stuff, the plastic is extremely, extremely good. The number one letdown of this build was the shocks. And not only the shock spring adjusters, the pistons. It's like, what were they thinking? They really, really dropped the ball on the shocks. The rest of the truck seems to be pretty darn good. I like the fact that you can fit full-size servos for the dig and the front, the double overdrive thing, the way it works out. From what I can tell, it's almost like a 2-speed transmission that just doesn't shift the rear into second gear. That's just my thoughts on that. The body is actually pretty darn solid. Once you get all the stuff in there, it really makes it solid. I really got my hopes up for it. The transmission is heavy. The whole truck comes in at about 7 pounds 10 ounces without the battery. So the truck's got a little beef to it as well. The motor, ESC and all that, that's in there just to get a baseline of where the truck is at. And it's more than likely going to be brushless. But I'm not 100% sure yet. But the servos, the shift and dig servo, or the overdrive and dig servo, that is, those are going to be changed out to something a little bit higher end. Thought I was stocked up better on the Reefs than what I was. Yeah. Also, I do want to mention horns. If you're going to buy one of these, go ahead and get the Vanquish horns. This thing is pretty much built for their horns. It may sound like a small thing to consider, but it's really meant for their horns. The horn offset, all that stuff. So, yeah, you may want to look at that. But guys, hopefully I was able to show you guys a little bit about the build. And now I get to work on the first drive. So guys, in that description, I will link this and all the parts that I've got on it, which is pretty much stock truck, except for, you know, the Reefs wheels, Jconcepts tires, motor, ESC, radio, and all that. So guys, check that description. Use those links. Make sure you're subscribed, and thank you all for watching. This was a long one to record, let me tell you. Guys, catch you later. Guys, if you like what you see, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. So, in the description, there's a link to become a channel member. If you want to become a channel member, it's a very simple $2, $5, $10, or if you really got some money, $25 a month. It's a simple way to support the channel. So, get that, and I am doing monthly giveaways for members only, so you might want to consider it. So, guys, use those links. Make sure you're subscribed. Thank you all for watching.